Make the game you want to play. It's probably the most repeated piece of advice in all of game development. It's also the entire reason this game exists. About 28 months ago, I was a senior in high school taking my first programming class. I was also deep into the show Hajime no Ippo at the time, and the thing I loved about it wasn't really the fights. It was the build up to them, the characters, the training, the way the show could be completely goofy one minute and then make you feel like your chest was caving in the next. And the arc that really sold me out on all of it was the rookie tournament, which is arguably the arc that sets the tone for the entire show. Ippo fights his way through a bracket, and the thing that got me is that every single opponent in it has their own story. None of them are filler guys standing between you and the real fight. Every one of them shows up with something they want, something they're scared of, and a reason so you understand why they're there. That is the exact thing I've been chasing with my games tournament, and I'll get back to that in a minute. And it got me thinking, why doesn't a boxing game like that exist? As far as I could find, boxing games came in two flavors. You had your realistic sports sims, which nail the sport but have basically no story worth caring about. And you had your arcade style games, which are fun as hell but aren't trying to make you feel anything. Nothing sat in the middle, nothing followed a real story build up to its fights, made those fights genuinely hard, and still had the confidence to be a little bit stupid sometimes. So the idea dawned on me that this would be the perfect first game to make. Honestly, I don't remember why I landed on the art style I did. It was definitely inspired by Stardew Valley to some degree, and top-down pixel art was just the medium I associated the original idea with, so that's what I went with. I also think part of it was that a 2D pixel art game seemed dramatically less daunting than a 3D first or third person fighter game. Looking back, I'm really happy that it's the choice I made because the scope of this game has stayed manageable, specifically because of that decision. If I'd gone 3D right as an 18-year-old with one programming class under my belt, this game would not exist right now. So since then, I've been working on this thing on and off, but mostly on for the last 2-ish years on every single aspect that goes into making a game. Here's where it actually is now. Back on Your Feet is a single-player narrative-driven boxing action adventure about redemption. It features precise, fast-paced combat that replicates real boxing mechanics while gamifying the sport with combos and abilities. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but still delivers high stakes. Let's start with the part I was most obsessed about with getting right, the combat. On the player's side, a fight comes down to 4 things: navigating the ring, timing your dodges, managing your stamina, and throwing the correct sequence of punches to land combos. That last one is the heart of it. Punches aren't just damage, landing a specific punch sequence completes a combo which can grant you buffs or slap debuffs onto your opponent and also recharges your stamina. So you can't just spam the punch button, since stamina management is a real constraint, further incentivizing the use of combos. New combos unlock as you progress through the story, and before the final 2 bosses you get to pick and choose from everything you've unlocked to equip the 3 that best fit how you like to fight. That was the whole goal. I wanted the game to feel like the real sport, but also read like a game you could get better at. But combat is only as good as who you're fighting. The premise is that you're fighting your way through a national boxing tournament, and there are 6 unique bosses who progressively get harder and pose new problems for you to solve. And this is the rookie tournament thing I mentioned earlier. Every opponent in this bracket has their own story. They aren't obstacles, they are people who want something, and you find out what that is before you ever throw a punch at them. You've got quick enemies who keep their distance and then swoop in for fast, ferocious attacks, and you've got bulkier enemies who will very sincerely threaten to murder you in cold blood if they ever get their hands on you. But let me actually show you what I mean using the second guy you fight in the tournament. Your first opponent doesn't have much story at all, and that's on purpose. The fight exists to introduce the tournament and make sure you've actually mastered the core dodge timing before anything real happens to you. Cherryabasi is different. The second that first fight ends, people start talking about him. Multiple scenes, multiple characters, all making the same point. The guy you just beat was a walk in the park, and Jerry is going to be a completely different problem. Then you get to the press conference, and you find out he's the 4th ranked heavyweight in the world, 25-4 every single one of those wins by knockout. And it doesn't stop there. He drags up Ken's past in front of everyone, all the stuff that got said about him 5 years ago, and tells the room he's going to finish Ken off in the ring exactly the way it happened the first time. So by the time the bell rings, you're not just fighting the next guy in the bracket, you've spent the whole build up quietly assuming this fight was going to be rough, and the press conference confirms every bit of it and then makes it personal on top. That's the feeling I was chasing, and it's why the tournament is structured the way that it is. In between the boss fights, there are plenty of opportunities to sharpen up in the form of sparring matches and training minigames, which is also just my favorite part of any boxing story, so of course it's in the game. And then there's the final boss, who gets alluded to throughout the entire game and is said to have a pretty significant presence in Ken's past. I'm not going to show you that fight or that guy, you can find that all out for yourself when you play the full game. Which brings me to the story, because the game is genuinely built on it. You play as Ken, a guy who moved to a new country to escape his old life and gets pushed, mostly unintentionally, into taking these steps to redeem himself and get back on his feet. Throughout that story, you get tons of opportunities to make decisions, and those decisions actually go somewhere, potentially leading to different dialogue, different cutscenes, different boss fights, and multiple endings. And some of them are extremely important, like this one in the Calm Cafe, where I'm choosing between a donut, a sandwich, and a waffle. Whatever I pick, that animation plays, so yes, this game features inconceivably brilliant game design. That's the tone I was chasing, by the way. The game can be goofy, but the themes it deals with are not. There's no gore and no gruesome graphics, it's a retro pixel art game, but the stuff underneath it is grim. However, the game focuses way more on the resilience against all that than the darkness itself. The whole idea is that no matter what happens to you, you can come back to a place even better than where you were, hence the name. And when you're not fighting or talking to someone, you're exploring. Every scene in this game is built around a feeling I want you to have while you're standing in it. The park is designed to be relaxing, the apartment is designed to make you wonder why anyone would live there. Pepper's Bar is designed to make you feel like you are somewhere you are not supposed to be. I've got a whole video on how I design these if you want the deep dive, but that's the short version. The other problem with letting you walk around is that you have to actually end up where the story needs you. I could have just taken control away and forced you into place with cutscenes every time, but that felt bad, and more importantly, it wasn't fun. So instead, you can try to go wherever you want, and if it's somewhere that has nothing to do with what you're supposed to be doing, the game just makes fun of you for it, while sneaking in a hint about where you actually need to go. And every so often, those out-of-the-way places are hiding an actual secret cutscene that gives you a little more insight into the story. So poking around is occasionally rewarded, and the rest of the time you get called an idiot, which I think is a fair trait. So where does that leave things? Earlier this summer, I released the demo on itch.io along with the first iteration of the game's trailer. The demo is a real vertical slice, not a teaser. It's the first 2 acts of the story, which is somewhere around a quarter of the full game and about an hour of content. You get 4 distinct fights, 2 in training and 2 in the tournament, the full combo and dodge system, and the 16-bit soundtrack, which was composed by Bert Cole and is honestly one of my favorite parts of the whole project. I did a short marketing push around it, and that got the game its first 100 wishlists, which for a first-time solo dev with no audience felt incredible. More importantly, it got me a mountain of genuinely useful feedback on the game, the trailer, the capsule art, and the Steam page, all of which has already made this thing a whole lot better. Which is actually the whole reason the demo is only on itch right now, not on Steam. I put it out there specifically to find out what people struggle with, what feels bad, and what I got wrong, so that I can take all of that and build a significantly more polished version of the demo before it goes anywhere near Steam. So here's the plan. A better, tighter version of this demo goes up on Steam for Next Fest in October, and then Back on Your Feet releases in November. And now I'm in the final stretch. I have no doubt that Back on Your Feet won't be perfect, but it was the game I wanted to play 28 months ago and couldn't find anywhere, so what better reason to make a game? If you want to see how the rest of this goes, subscribe, and if any of that sounded like a game you'd want to play, there are 2 things you can do. Play the demo on itch right now and tell me what sucks about it, because that feedback is genuinely what's shaping the Steam version, and wishlist it on Steam, which helps me more than you'd think, because wishlists before Next Fest are what decide whether Steam shows my game to anybody at all. Both are linked below. Anyways, thanks so much for watching.